Alrighty, so I know I've been asking you about your input at this point, and again, you may be watching this in the future, and that is already done. And what I mean by that is I'm recording this really right after Thanksgiving, right? So it's on this day after Thanksgiving, on the 26th. And I had given you the ability to give me input at week 16. And then I'm still interested in that, by the way. But what I've decided over the holiday, was I came up with what I think will work because A, it's not quite as involved a project as we've had in the past. I'm going to give you the topic so you don't actually have to come up with it. And I'm going to tell you what I want, okay? And I'm going to give you an opportunity, if you want, to earn some extra credit, and I'll talk about that at the end. So what I want you to do here is I want you to create a restaurant class for your Develop It 5. Okay? And here are the following properties. The name, the address, the website, and of course you make this stuff up. But use real restaurants if you have them, right? A menu, right? So in this case, you're building a restaurant and you're building a menu for them. Now, and I say in here, you can determine how you set up the menu. You can also create another method to add the menu if you want, or in your constructor, which again, I'll look at some signatures here in a minute, and you'll see what I mean by that. So you can do this one. You have to have a menu, but you can determine how you add your menu to your instances. Okay. You need something that keeps track of cells. So this is one of those items in your constructor that you may just initially set to 0, but again, you get to determine how you want to do that. And then you have to create at least 3 different restaurants. Okay, so you'll see me instantiate 1. You'll need to instantiate 3 different ones, at least 3 different menu items, and at least 3 different orders. Okay, and you'll see how these are used in a minute. So that's worth 40 points right there. Okay, and then for another 40 points, what you'll do is you'll actually create a method that processes an order. Okay, and like the menu, you can determine how you will take in the order information. You will have a method that looks at that shows total sales, and you will display the restaurant detail. Okay, so by far the one of this that probably is going to give you some time to do, or giving some thought, is how you will process an order. Now this is all from the command line. Okay, I'm going to give you again extra credit if you want it to actually create a page. So and then I'm going to have you, now that's 80 points right there possible. And then you're going to create a method that now this is for 15 points. Okay, so that boost it to 95 points if you get all this. Create a method that returns the most popular item purchased. Again, you have, for each individual restaurant, what is the most, not for all of them, but for each individual restaurant, because that's why I told you to create 3 different menu items. And again, menus probably include the description of the item and then the cost. And then 3 different orders, which would be, which item are you ordering and what is the quantity, right? How many do you want? So in this method, and you can see I've given this one a bit more points, and I've broken it out from the other methods just because I know this one is going to take a little more work, so I'm giving you more points for that. And then 5 points of this work will be that in your private repo, you create a feedback MD file and give me your feedback on this course. And this is way important to me. Of course, in your overall grade, it still accounts for something, but it's way important to me because I'm always attempting to make this class better, and I've made it significantly different every time I've taught it. So your feedback really goes into the way I look at the next time I teach it. Okay, so that's the base requirement. So let me just show you. I'm going to move over into and I've just given, and I'm not going to show you the work I've done, because that's what I want you to do. I actually want you to do this work, but I've shown you at least the signatures of what you would need, right? You have, and in this case, it's just, right, I called it restaurant. It makes sense to call it I didn't realize I spelled that wrong, but anyway, spell it right. Create a class called restaurant. Here's your constructor, again, of your name, your address, your website, and then again, if you do a menu, right, on when you create, right, so this is substantiating, creating a restaurant object, right, so in this case, you can handle how you're going to get this menu. You can write a method if you want to actually create the menu, right, or you would add it to your base instantiated. So again, you get to figure this out. And I said take an order, and I was passing in just a parameter, right? So again, how are you going to take an order? Because now you have a menu. How are you going to take an order? Figure out a total order value, and then update cells as well, right? Because that's the other thing, is I want you to keep track of cells. And I'm just giving you, right, the idea of a signature. This is, just the structure of just one example, because obviously if you do your menu different, your order will be depending on how you're capturing the order data. And I've taken the values out of here just so you can see, though. So this is, and I think probably the one I'm missing, again, I've got 2 orders here, so I'd want to take one more. But the idea here of that you want 3 different restaurants. So this is one restaurant, right? And then I think the only method I didn't have on here was display restaurant detail, right? So I would want another method, display, maybe something like that, doesn't have to be, right? So then I'd have another method, right? Display detail. So I'm just giving you, right, so this is the one instance, and again, you can have this all in one file if you want, right? And then you would do another one, right? Like Taco Heaven. I'm just creating, not heaven, whatever, equals new restaurant, right? So that's where you create. I'm just trying to give you some examples so you'll know what I mean. 3 different restaurants, right? And then 3 different menu items. Again, I didn't show here the menu items, right? Depending on, again, how you determine you're going to add your menu items at the point you create your restaurant, kind of makes sense to me. But if you want to do another method that says add menu, you can do that as well, because what you'll want to think about when you're setting up your menu as far as the data is how you're going to take an order, right? But again, I'm giving you some, I'm just giving the example, but I want you to give this some thought for how you'll do it. Okay, so I am going to show you just the output of what I have so far, right? So I did order line item, right? Order line item. Probably the thing I'd want to do here is then do an order total, which I hadn't done. But then I did do total sales for my restaurant. Right? But this is, again, just the one, kind of draft example I have right now. And probably what I would do here is actually create another output, because let's say this is order line item. Let's see, these 2 were the complete order. Then I'd want to give some content back that says, right, order total equals this, right? And or maybe something a little more, right? That's on the take order. Okay, so that's what you need to do for this last develop it. I feel like this is hopefully a little more straightforward and I think it should work within the timeline, which I will talk about in a minute. But the other thing I've done here, right, is I'm going to offer, if anyone wants it, and to extra credit. And so what I mean by extra credit is this. It's going to be 25 points you can apply to any previous develop its that we've done. So if you wanted to apply all of it to one of them, if you wanted to split it into 2, whatever, right? If you want to take advantage of that, then you would take what the base work you've done here, and then you would do create a page to create taking and processing an order. So I will. Again, this is my first video, so I think I will probably, depending on if people want to see what it would look like just from the page perspective, taking an order, I'd totally be open to doing that. Depends on if anybody is going to actually look at doing this. So maybe what I will do, and that's actually my next step, will be to include this discussion in the last Learn Together that we do. All right, so I think that at least gives you enough to see what the requirements are. The other thing I've done is this was actually set, and I'm going to move the calendar forward here. This development was actually originally due on the 10th, so I'm going to move it to the 13th. So, and remember this, right? So this is going to be due at midnight or when I wake up the next morning. But and when I wake up the next morning to grade, there's not a discussion you and I can have about you changing code. So my suggestion is actually for you to turn it in somewhere here so that I can review that code and give you any feedback. But if for whatever your schedule is that you don't turn it in until before midnight or again before I look at it on the 14th, just know that I will grade it as is. And that doesn't allow you and I a conversation, but hopefully I will see you your code this week. And I've also set in my schedule, right, when I'm going to be on campus during finals week. So just to review, I will put together, I've already drafted the week together 17 to give you a chance to review these requirements. I will be on campus during these designated times. I can be on campus other times depending on how much of a heads up you give me during that week, but noon to 12:50 on Monday, 1 to 1:50. This is in my office in B113. I will be in the lab, which is 123. I will be on that lab the last day on Tuesday the 11th. I will be on campus from the same office hour I have on Monday, and then my Thursday office hour is the same as it is on Tuesday. So just keep those office hours in mind when you're considering your schedule if you want to come see me during that week. And if you need to meet with me virtually, that's totally fine too. Just give me a heads up so I can schedule around, because I do have other events happening that day that are on my schedule, but I'm just giving you my base schedule for that week. Okay? All right, so that means you have from, of course, here and now you really have it as of getting back from Thanksgiving, a little bit of time to digest and take in how you might approach this. So my last thing I would say to you here, and I hope by this time I will have seen your feedback, is for anybody that wants to look at the extra credit, I will, again, my goal will be between now and hopefully next week is actually give you an example of what that might look like. All right? Okay, have a good one. This will be your first video for Develop at 5.